There we go. And good morning, everybody. It is Wonderful Wednesday with Ronia Fraser. Now, Ronia, I met you at Hypnothoughts Live, and you are amazing. I mean, you are a international speaker. You go everywhere, training on narcissism. You know, you know this inside out. And I love you for that, because of course, you know, I've experienced it myself. And yeah, we got on really well. And, you know, you are fabulous. We're also both havening practitioners, certified havening practitioners.
We are, yes.
And, you know, that doesn't happen very often. So we were like, both had the same thing going on: hypnotherapists, havening practitioners, and recovery from narcissism. So absolutely, yeah, I like that. So Ronia, take it away. Tell us about you. Tell you
about me. Well, as you already said, my name is Ronia Fraser, and I'm a multi-award-winning trauma recovery coach and clinical hypnotherapist. And I'm one of the leading experts in the field of narcissistic abuse recovery, which means I work with abuse survivors from all over the world, and I help them get back on their feet, regain their mental health, and recover who they were always meant to be.
Yeah, you do. And you wrote this book, which is absolutely so helpful for anybody who wants, you know, they don't necessarily want to go to a therapist, although it is advisable, but it's something that you can do yourself, and you can do it probably quietly without the other person knowing, just to get you back. So I encourage everybody to, you know, get this book if this is what you're going through.
Yeah, it's super practical because, as you know, I know you know, we can't just, you know, rationalize it away when we have things like that happen to us. We need to have actual practical tools that help us, you know, come out the other side. And that's exactly what I wrote that book for, because there's so many books where it's just a theory, right? And everybody who has experienced narcissistic abuse, as you have, I read the 1-star review on your book on Amazon. There's so many books out there where it's just about the theory, but I actually haven't met a single survivor who couldn't write a PhD on the topic. So there is one part is all the theoretical understanding of what has happened to us, but to actually move through it, we need the practical tools. And obviously, as hypnotherapists, havening practitioners, we are all about getting things done, right? We've done enough talking, it's about the doing, and that's what the book was designed to do.
Yes, you're giving them the how.
Exactly.
How to do it, because we know what it is, we know the horror of it, and we all know that we're about an inch tall. I remember being that tall. Mm-hmm. You know, that's how they can make one feel, and of course we're giving them permission to do it because we're in that kind of codependent relationship. However, it's how do you grow, and this will help you.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely fantastic. And I'm excited because I get to see you in Ireland.
Oh, yes, in April.
Yes, 4th and 5th. So that'll be have you ever been to Ireland before?
I have. I actually did a conference earlier this year in Belfast, and I've been to the Havening conference in Dublin last year, I think. Did my havening training in Ireland, and Ireland was actually my Brexit exit plan. But then I went to Portugal instead. But so I've been to Ireland a few times.
Okay, I haven't, and my havening teacher, Stephen Travers, he's in Dublin, so I'm looking forward to meeting him at the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference.
Yeah. So it's amazing that you come our way for a change.
I know. Yeah, I'm English, so I should be in England. Yeah, actually, I'm. Yeah, there's me in America. Yeah, I had to go to America to actually grow myself and realize that conferences were a thing. I didn't actually know they existed, and that there were all these amazing people. So I literally just feel as though I've literally grown my branches, if you like. So it's exciting. So
time to expand into Europe now.
Yeah. Well, okay. Now I got to go back into Europe. Okay.
Exactly. Europe is ready for the bunny talk.
Oh, ready for the bunny talk. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah, thank you. I know. I'm excited for it, actually. So, but tell us, what's next for you, Ronia?
Oh, what's next for me? Good question. I always have so many things on at the same time. And it's the beginning of January. So it's kind of like a fresh start, I guess. What's next for me? I'm going to do some conferences this year. And as I always do, I love it. I love the conferences. I love our community. I love us growing together, inspiring each other. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to be in Denmark and in Ireland. Of course, I'll be at Hypnothoughts Live and in the UK later this year. And I have my training this year. So this year is very much focused on training, which is basically narcissistic abuse recovery coaching. If somebody wants to help survivors, because I can't do all this work myself, and it's become this major, massive thing. And yeah, so we need more people that have the actual tools to help other people. So this year is very much focused on the training, but not only for survivors or therapists or coaches. I also developed a module which is for, legal professionals, for example, for police officers, for social workers, for mediators, like all those people that we are in contact with when we have to deal with narcissistic abuse. And one of the biggest disconnects, obviously, is that we are fighting this battle all on our own because we, have people supposedly helping us and obviously having the intention to help us, but there is this big disconnect because they don't actually understand what we're dealing with. So this is also something that I'm going to do this year to really, serve the educational part of it for people that can't write a PhD on it, that haven't gone through it, but they still need to understand to be able to help the survivors.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've found that the bunny talk process has actually helped the children of within the families, and not necessarily even when they are children, it's when they're adults, because bunny talk process also helps, is really great for inner child work. So and in fact it's quite interesting. Because children, as you know, when they're with because so often the person who is the narcissist will manage to somehow take the child from the mother or either vice versa, because it's just it's not just men that are narcissists. And then the child, because they have to be codependent on that parent, they get amnesia about their how much they loved that other parent, and that's actually what happened to my children. So it's quite interesting how what we do is so important to help those, as you say, when they're adults still, and they've been the child of the parents who got divorced, if they managed to get divorced. Some don't.
Yeah, well, and it's on so many different levels. Right. Yeah. And of course, we as hypnotherapists, we work with the unconscious mind. And as a child, you have very limited resources to deal with the situation. But then obviously, as we grow up, I mean, it was the same for me. It was probably the same for you. When we are in this situation, whether it's as children, because we have a parent who is narcissistic, and then we end up in a narcissistic relationship or in a narcissistic workplace. At the end of the day, it always comes back to, at the time, whenever that was, we just didn't have the resources we needed to deal with it. And then we need to, that's where the inner child work comes in, and where it's so important, right? Because obviously that's where all this programming comes from that keeps getting us into trouble. And that is part of the recovery, right? To realize, hold on a second, there is actually a part I'm playing in all of this. And that's why it's so beautiful that we have the bunny talk, that we have other modalities like havening, where we can then actually, in hypnosis, of course, to actually access all those faulty programs, to run an update on it. Because if we don't, we're just going to repeat the pattern over and over again. So
absolutely, because we've just got to clear that landscape.
Exactly.
And sort of like just retrain the neural pathways and get the and what's so wonderful though, recently, I'll share this with you, Ronia, my youngest son is now remembering. So that's beautiful, because
that's beautiful. Yeah,
I know, because he was able to actually realize what his dad was, and actually no, I don't want a relationship with you anymore. That's it. I realize.
Yeah.
And he may tentatively at some point, but we know what they can be like. It's like the cloak and dagger, or the really, really kind and nice. And then suddenly it's like, boom, it just like, they can just take your legs away from underneath you. So I've told him, just be very careful. However, he is remembering. He said, "Oh, I remember you doing this and that," and it's
yeah, that's beautiful.
I know, and it means it's such a relief. But gosh, has he gone through it? And this is why. And you and I both know, we know that people, they're not their behaviors, they're their good intention, which is to protect their feelings. So this is why people do behaviors such as overeating, maybe, or over drinking, sort of like taking drugs, behaving in certain ways, just doing things that they might not want to do, but anything to distract themselves from those very hurtful feelings. And because they think they're so painful, they don't want to feel them.
Yeah, and that's why it's important to have the right support and the right tools, right? Because as you just said, at the end of the day, we're all emotional beings. We always feel something before we do something. So when we then actually do real healing work, like deep healing work, what happens is that all of those behaviors that don't serve us any longer, because obviously they serve the purpose at some point, they will just drop off. And I think that's why it's so important that we're having this conversation, right? Not only to show people that there is tools and exercises and help and all of that available, but I just wanted to say something to what you previously said, because there are probably parents listening. They are struggling with the custody battle, with sharing the custody and having one narcissistic partner. But I just wanted to pick up on that, because you very nicely said that, and we could all tell, we could feel how important this was for you and how beautiful this experience is that your son remembers now, right? And I just wanted to pick up on that, because as a parent, obviously, it is such a painful experience to go through. And then especially when the narcissist then utilizes the child against oneself. And it's absolute horror to go through. But you actually just made a perfect example that, unfortunately, it is the way, but it will happen. There is this time delay because, as we already said, as children, we have limited resources. We are very dependent on the parents. But then as the child grows up and as the child develops their own value system, as their child develops their own understanding, usually what happens is that somehow the child does come around because, he remembers all of a sudden. Or, when we grow up, when our brain develops, we see things differently. And I think for any parent who's dealing with this kind of situation, that's just very important to just be aware of. And of course, we would like to have things different right in that moment. But unfortunately, with this whole narcissistic abuse thing, some things just take time to fall back into place. The important thing is that they will. And I just wanted to point that out, because I know that a lot of people are dealing with exactly that situation that you mentioned.
Yeah. And I will be honest, and I'll say my eldest son is still in that codependent relationship with him. And the way I cope with it is to say, that's his journey.
Yeah.
And eventually, again, I know at some point he will get it. But right now, I have to say that's his journey. My youngest son will eventually do what we're doing. You can just tell. He's already got his Reiki too. He's so in tune. He understands all about the truth and speaking and feeling your feelings. So this is what he's done, and he himself has been able to say goodbye to marijuana, and he's gone through his journey, and he has grown. So he had to do this himself, and I'm so proud of him. And yeah, I know, and he is going to do something big around anger, probably. Really letting it go, feeling your feelings and letting it go. And so for parents, yeah, you're right. Understand it's not you, it's them, the other partner, and it's and your children. It's their journey, and they will eventually come round.
Which is quite a difficult thing to accept, right? Because we just want the best. It's the same when somebody deals with a sibling or a friend who is in this situation, and all you want is just help. But at the end of the day, it's all our own journey. And then it comes back down to taking responsibility for ourselves, right? So unfortunately, that's how it is. But it's the only way that somebody will come out the other side.
Yeah. And be brave. But it was hard. I almost, because I had them both when they were younger, and then when they were each sort of 13. And their behavior was very erratic. When I look back at I would probably think that people would say they had ADHD or ADD, ODD, whatever they call it. It's not, it's trauma. They had trauma.
Yeah, I just want to say that.
And there was something else that had gone on for them again, which is a bit of a nightmare, but that's another story. So that was why their behavior was like that. And it was, so my ex-husband was just come and live with me. No rules in my house. And I'll give you an Xbox. And it was, so to them, it's like, great, no rules, because I did have rules, expected them to do their homework, expected them to be on time. When I was taking them to cricket, when I was taking them to hockey, when I was taking them to football, when I was taking them to their practices, yes. And when I called them down for dinner, I would expect them to come down. So,
as you would. Yeah. But then, of course, narcissists say exactly the things the other person wants to hear, right? So if the teenagers don't like rules, as any teenager doesn't, there are no rules. Same with, when they love bomb, when they draw us into this relationship, it's just saying all the things that the other person wants to hear. And that, of course, is part of the trap.
Yeah. And if, it's, what you have here, and with the training of it, it's so important, Ronia, because, and so many people aren't even aware that they're in this relationship. And not everybody had, because I think the word narcissism, people, I think we all have some qualities of it.
Yeah, so that's why it's important to distinguish between narcissism and narcissistic abuse, right? So when you said earlier, I can't remember exactly what you said, but something about recovery from narcissism, I don't do recovery from narcissism as such. What I do is recovery from narcissistic abuse, because as you just said, we all are supposed to have some narcissism within us, but it's all about a healthy balance. We all need to have a healthy self-image. We need to like the person that looks back in the mirror. We need to have a healthy self-confidence, right? So we can actually be ourselves and do our thing. So I always find it quite interesting, because it's always about the empath and the narcissist, right? And because most people see everything as black and white. And when empath, then especially on social media, when they're like those stupid tests, like how many % narcissist are you, and like nonsense like that. and then it comes back with like 0.0000% narcissism, and then the empath is so proud of, you know, just being 1,000,000% empath. That's also the balance tipped too far, right? So we have to have empathy, we have to have narcissism, but all in a healthy balance. As soon as that scale tips, then it's a problem. And then, of course, you know, we need to bring it back into the balance. But then the difference is an empath will do the work that's required, and narcissist might talk about it, but they will never take the responsibility to do it, right? So that's the key in all of this.
Exactly. We would never see somebody who has that issue. And of course, we don't diagnose. Well, I don't diagnose.
I don't.
And it's but I wouldn't see a narcissist anyway, because they wouldn't need to see me. They wouldn't want to see me. Why would they need to see me?
Yeah, exactly. Because, you know, there's nothing wrong with them in the first place.
Yeah.
And I mean, what can happen is that somebody has developed narcissistic tendencies or behaviors as a coping mechanism, right? Based out of insecurity, or, you know, for whatever reason, because obviously when we are children, we unconsciously choose a strategy. And what can happen is that somebody might have engaged in what we nowadays would consider narcissistic behaviors, but they are actually not narcissists as such, right? So I have worked with people that do have the self-awareness where they go like, hold on a second, I'm behaving in a certain way that actually hurts other people, that harms other people. It's not my intention. You know, I want to explore where this is coming from. So, you know, we have that as well. So we have to be kind of careful. I mean, everybody nowadays is a narcissist because it's a social media buzzword. But at the end of the day, for me, as you just said, I don't diagnose anybody. And what I care about is the survivor. I care about the symptoms that they present. I care about how can I help them come out the other side. I personally spend absolutely zero time on narcissists, analyzing them, talking about them, even with my clients, you know, like when they come to me, I'm the literal end point. At that stage, they've talked so much about them. They're just tired of talking about it. They just now want to get out the other side. And they come to me and go like, I'm done feeling this way. Please, can you just give me the tools to get out the other side? And I, for myself, have made the decision that, and you see that in my social media content as well, I seriously waste absolutely no energy on narcissists whatsoever. I'm not interested. I couldn't care less. What I care about is the survivors and how I can support them, you know, to get back on their feet. And that has nothing to do with the narcissist. It was never about the narcissist in the first place. It's just, you know, showing us a door to walk through with an invitation to, you know, really deeply explore ourselves and all the things that got us into trouble.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Get to the root of that. And then it's like, you know, how come you had that in your and how come we're inviting these people in? Yeah, absolutely. And
which has nothing to do with blame, right? Because it's not a conscious decision at the time, because we're just unaware. And it's so funny, actually. It's not funny. But I was just having this conversation like 2 days ago where a friend was talking about a mutual friend and was like, yeah, she just loves a bad boy. You know, I mean, I used to love a bad boy. It was very rock and roll. My life was very rock and roll. When I look back now, the dysfunction is just ridiculous. But I didn't realize at the time. I just thought, you know, it was part of the game. I was in the music industry, so that's the game you play. But actually, no, it's not. There was something about me that made me play that game, but I didn't have to, because it's not healthy in the first place. So, but it's unconscious, right? So it's not like, oh, I intentionally pick somebody who treats me badly.
No,
not because consciously, you know, it's wrong. But then if there is, you know, unconscious faulty program in the background that's running, that's how we then end up putting up with behavior like that. Well, until we become aware.
Yeah.
And then we can change it.
Absolutely. And then we can realize we have a choice. Yeah, you're right, because at the when we learning our relationships when we're children, we go, oh, that's what happens, isn't it? That's because we're modeling, and we just accept certain people because that's what we do. However, for you, it may well have been the passion or the excitement or whatever, because they'll display in different ways. Every person who has this will display in a different way.
Well, they will show us exactly what we unconsciously feel we are lacking, right? Okay. So if somebody doesn't feel seen or heard, a narcissist will do exactly that. If somebody doesn't feel lovable in themselves, a narcissist will make sure that you feel like the most loved person in the world. It's the honey. and then exactly. But all of this is unconscious, like when I think back on my own journey, I mean, I was always a successful, confident, smart woman. I thought I could run a boardroom, but then when it was about my personal life, clearly there was faulty programming in the background. And whatever the reason is for that, it doesn't have to be a major childhood trauma. It can be just something that someone said or did unconsciously, or something major that happened. I have a mix of both. But at the end of the day, as I said, it's not about the narcissist. It's about realizing, okay, I have a thing for bad boys, just to take my friend's example again. This is clearly a pattern. It's not serving me any longer. So let's just explore, what is this really about? Because clearly that bad boy is offering me something, that I'm desperate to have.
But I like the way you're saying bad boy, because actually you're downgrading it. You're downgrading the bully. And it's just putting them just down a bit. And
you can call them whatever you want, right? And narcissist has been so overused. I mean, nowadays everybody who disagrees with someone is gaslighting. Everybody who has an emotional response to something is traumatized. No, we're emotional beings. We're supposed to feel emotions. Everybody who's ever maybe unintentionally even hurt somebody else, now all of a sudden is an abuser and is a narcissist. And I mean, that's what social media does, right? We overuse those terms. I personally don't care about the label whatsoever, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, it's about getting that person back to being all they can be.
Exactly.
Back to them. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Ronia, you and I could just talk about this forever. So everybody, thank you for watching. No doubt I'll have you back on here again, Ronia, at some time. And have a wonderful day, everybody. And it's goodbye from me, Claudia Rickard. And it's goodbye from
Ronia Fraser. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and thank you for watching, everybody. So take care. Bye. Bye.
Bye.